After seeing the events unfold in Crimea, I came into work last week knowing that it might be my last day because I felt morally obligated to speak out against the editorial line of my employer. When I broke that set, the call was heard around the world by every mainstream media outlet imaginable, which picked up on the fact that a journalist working on a Russian-backed TV station was admonishing Russia, the focal point of indignant fervor around the world. But I wasn't simply calling out Russia. I was calling out the U.S. as well as every other global superpower that pits the people of other countries against each other as pawns to push a broader agenda of imperialism. Despite what the onslaught of hit pieces in the wake of the insanity said, I'm not anti-West or anti-Russia. I am pro-peace and pro-diplomacy. But above all, I have ethical consistency of an anti-military track record as well as a strong moral compass of empathy, compassion, and the rule of law. RT is funded by public grants in Russia in the same way that Al Jazeera is in BBC in Britain and Qatar. Yet every newscast I heard was prefaced with the reminder that RT is Kremlin funded, or it was introduced with the declaration that RT is widely considered a 24-hour propaganda network. Above all, I still have my job, which I think shocked people more than ever. You see, the fact that I might have more editorial freedom or leniency within the ranks than the majority of corporate-funded news outlets doesn't sit too well. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you saw the National Defense Authorization Act covered on corporate TV? Or Nestle's privatization of water around the earth? Or Monsanto's stronghold on food labeling in this country? Or what about the plight of the Oglala Sioux Native Americans at Pine Ridge? And when it comes to cheerleading America's wars, well, don't even get me started. See, 6 corporate giant conglomerates control nearly 90% of all media Americans consume. And let's be honest, the paradigm pushed by these outlets fits into a box that marginalizes radical thought and third-party voices. And there are far too many instances of establishment reporters either getting fired or resigning for speaking out against the editorial line of their network, or for simply going against their advertisers. Like in 1999, when 2 Fox reporters named Jane Aker and Steve Wilson attempted to air a story about the dangers of genetically modified bovine growth hormone. And they were subsequently blocked from airing the report because of threats from Monsanto. And then there's NBC's Peter Arnett, who was immediately fired for making critical commentary about the Iraq War on Iraqi television. A memo from management made it very clear the reason was because he, quote, put a difficult face on the public for NBC in a time of war. Moving on to MSNBC's Phil Donahue, a news host who had a 29-year run on national TV. He was also fired because of his open criticism of the Iraq invasion. As Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Chris Hedges so aptly said, that moment was a time that commercial television decided amassing corporate money and providing entertainment was its central mission. And then there's a woman named Andrea Seabrook, a former NPR reporter on the Hill who resigned in protest of impartiality. She came on Breaking the Set to tell me how fed up she was with essentially reprinting government press releases. She actually called the incestuous relationship between reporters and politicians on the Hill collusion. And most recently, there's CBS News investigator Cheryl Atkinson, who resigned out of her contract early, citing that she was frustrated with the network's bias and pressure from its corporate partners. After the dissent at RT became viral, a former writer for the Democratic website Think Progress also wrote an article saying that he felt suffocating pressure reporting in D.C. and that his network would get berated with phone calls from the White House if he criticized the administration. This type of self-censorship is nothing new. It comes with the territory of working for any large media outlet funded by questionable entities. Except the difference with corporate media is that there are literally hundreds of conflicts of interest fueling their editorial lines.